Allo, allo, it's Nia. Welcome to AI Creator World Podcast, the place where creators learn how to grow faster, build smarter, and turn artificial intelligence into real opportunity. Here, we explore powerful AI tools, content strategies, personal branding systems, and new ways to create income in the digital era. If you are building something online, you are in the right place. Let's begin.
Right now, it is just incredibly easy to spin up an AI influencer that, generates 10 million views basically overnight.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The barrier to entry has, it's just completely evaporated.
Right. But here is the massive catch that, the whole industry is just kind of waking up to. Almost none of them actually survive their first year.
Yeah, it's wild. You see this completely saturated market with these digital personas, and they pop up, they accumulate followers rapidly through just, sheer novelty,
Uh-huh.
and then they just vanish. The literal second the algorithm shifts, they're gone.
Which is exactly why we're doing a really, really fascinating deep dive today. We're looking at a framework from the research team at AI Creator World.
Right. Their 2026 guide on building AI influencer brand authority that actually lasts.
Exactly. And, the stakes here apply to you, whether you are managing a digital persona yourself, or maybe you're building your own human personal brand, or honestly, even if you're just trying to understand how modern internet culture actually works.
Because it really comes down to understanding the mechanics of true authority, right? Versus just like fleeting attention. We have this tendency to think that reaching 1 million people is the ultimate goal.
It sounds like a good goal.
Sure, it sounds great. But if those 1 million people don't remember you tomorrow, that reach has basically zero structural value.
Yeah, it's kind of like, think of it like handing out flyers on a really busy street.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Right. You have thousands of people walking by, lots of people see your face, and some might even take the flyer.
But no one actually stops.
Exactly. They glance and they just keep walking. But if you contrast that with a Michelin star restaurant, you actively seek it out. You make a reservation months in advance.
Yeah, and most importantly, you inherently trust the menu before you even walk in.
Right. And that is, that's the fundamental difference that the source highlights.
Yeah, the researchers put it really well. They say viral reach is a distribution event, but trusted influence is a relationship state.
A relationship state. I love that phrasing.
Right. Because a viral hit is, at the end of the day, just distribution.
Mm.
An AI account can easily generate 10 million views on, like, a trendy visual generation or whatever.
Sure.
But if there's no cohesive positioning behind it, the audience never encodes that creator as a resource. They don't file them away as someone worth returning to.
Okay, let me challenge that slightly, though, just to play devil's advocate.
Go for it.
If an AI account gets, let's say, 10 million views on a stupid dance video, isn't that still a massive win? You can throw a link in the bio, you can grab a quick sponsorship. It feels like money in the bank, right?
Well, it's a short-term win, yeah. But it creates a really dangerous long-term illusion.
How so?
Because virality, without clear positioning, leaves no lasting impression. And more importantly, it doesn't compound. Authority, on the other hand, is basically an ecosystem of trust signals.
Okay, an ecosystem.
Yeah. So when you share a specific expertise or, a coherent narrative consistently, those early credibility signals might seem really small. They generate pretty modest returns at first.
But they snowball over time.
Exactly. They snowball. If an audience actually trusts you, they aren't just passively consuming.
Right, they share your content.
Yes, and they share it with context. They're essentially doing your marketing for you, but they're adding their own personal stamp of approval.
That is so true. And then I guess brands start to validate you too, right?
Which the audience then sees as yet another credibility signal. It's a feedback loop. And the source actually points out that the returns on building authority are heavily backloaded.
What does that mean exactly in this context?
It means that all the deliberate, kind of unglamorous work you do in your first 12 months, it ends up paying off disproportionately in months 18 through 36.
Wow. Okay, so virality just spikes and dies, but true influence it's lasting.
Right. True influence means the audience is actively searching for your perspective.
They're looking for the Michelin star experience, not the random flyer. So, okay, how do we actually build the restaurant? Because the framework has these 8 pillars, and it starts with voice and positioning.
Yeah, pillar 1. And there is a massive warning here right out of the gate about something they call identity drift.
Identity drift, which sounds insidious.
Oh, it is incredibly insidious. It happens when a creator changes the core of who their persona is simply to chase whatever the current trend is.
Like jumping on a meme that makes no sense for your brand.
Exactly. Now, durable brands, they'll adapt their tone, maybe speaking faster for a short-form video or slowing down for a deep dive like we do.
Sure, format dictates tone.
Right? But they never, ever compromise their core worldview. If you shift your values just to get views, audiences sense that inconsistency.
Even subconsciously, right? Like something just feels off.
Exactly. And it completely erodes whatever trust you've managed to build.
So you need a recognizable narrative that people can actually invest in, which feeds directly into pillar 2, high-value content.
Yes, and the research is brutally honest about this part.
Oh yeah, generic AI tips are basically dead. Broad surface-level summaries just do not work anymore.
No, the market is absolutely flooded with generic information. I mean, anyone can ask an AI to write 5 tips for productivity.
Right. So to build a sustainable content engine, you need specific, highly opinionated insights.
It has to come from a distinct vantage point, otherwise there's just no scarcity of value.
But wait, if you narrow down your focus that much, there's a risk, isn't there? The framework mentions that repetition builds the perception of expertise.
It does.
But as a creator, if I talk about the exact same niche topic like 4 or 5 times, don't I risk totally boring my audience? Because the instinct is always, to do the next new thing.
Yeah, that's the human instinct, but this gets to how audiences actually process and retain information. The researchers argue that repetition with deepening depth signals genuine expertise.
Deepening depth, so not just saying the exact same words.
Right, not redundancy. If you publish your 4th or 5th piece exploring, let's say, the nuances of AI monetization strategy, you are perceived as way more authoritative than someone who dropped one great video on it and then pivoted to reviewing microphones.
Okay, yes. You're proving that your knowledge actually compounds.
Exactly.
It's basically the difference between a tourist and a local.
Oh, I like that.
Like the tourist visits a city once and they just post pictures of the big obvious monuments, the Eiffel Tower, whatever.
Right, the surface level stuff.
But the local, they keep talking about the same city all the time. But every single time they tell you about like a new hidden alleyway or some secret cafe you've never heard of.
That analogy perfectly captures it. The local has deepening depth. But the question is, how do you know which alleyways your audience actually cares about?
You can't just guess.
No, you have to look for very specific signals in the data, which is pillar 3, data-driven iteration.
And we are definitely not talking about the vanity metrics everyone usually obsesses over here. Top line reach, view counts. That is not the focus.
Forget views. You want to look for what they call authority signals.
Right. Things like save rates and share rates, but specifically shares with added context.
And the depth of the comments. That one is huge.
Yeah, the depth of the comments feels like a game changer. It's the difference between someone leaving like a single fire emoji.
Which is basically useless.
Right, versus someone writing a full paragraph asking a really nuanced question about the framework you just shared.
Because when the audience starts treating your content as an actual knowledge resource, rather than just passing entertainment, your position in their mental hierarchy completely elevates.
You become the local guide.
Exactly. And creators need to review these specific analytics weekly. When you find a format that gets high saves or really deep comments, you do not pivot to a new experiment.
You build a series around it, you scale the winner.
Yes, you scale what works.
Okay, so you have a consistent voice, your content is deep and specific, and you're scaling what works based on those authority signals. But data only tells you what works today.
Right.
What happens when the underlying algorithm shifts? Because, we know they always do. Suddenly, overnight, your views drop by 80%. You need some kind of defensive mode.
And that brings us to pillar 4, the community fortress. Because a community isn't just a fun metric to brag about. It's literal structural defense.
Right.
If your followers share a culture and a common language anchored in your brand, a sudden platform disruption cannot easily displace you.
And the mechanism for doing this, according to the source, relies on recurring engagement rituals.
Yeah, things like hosting a weekly Q&A, running a monthly challenge, or even just leaning into signature catchphrases. It creates a shared history.
Okay, but here's the part that I think entirely shifts how we think about relatability. We usually equate relatability with human flaws, right? Like being messy or making mistakes.
Right, the whole I'm just like you human angle.
But the framework argues that relatability actually requires legibility.
Which is fascinating. And it makes perfect sense when you're dealing with AI personas. Because, they literally do not have human vulnerability.
Exactly. They don't get tired. They don't have bad hair days. They don't have, childhood trauma to overcome.
Yeah. So how do you relate to them? You relate to them by understanding their inner logic.
Their inner logic. Break that down for us.
So audiences attach to creators whose inner logic they can predict and identify with. If an AI persona holds visible standards, if they express genuine opinions and have a really coherent worldview, they become legible.
You can read them.
Exactly. The audience knows exactly how this specific creator will react to, say, breaking news in the tech industry. That predictability, that clear narrative logic, that's what creates deep emotional attachment.
Oh, wow. So you don't need to fake human flaws. You just need a consistent, understandable operating system.
Precisely. Now, alongside that community fortress, you also need Pillar 5, cross-platform expansion.
Because relying on a single platform makes a creator structurally fragile.
Incredibly fragile.
Yeah.
Your entire authority can be wiped out by one arbitrary policy change. So you need a strategy that uses different platforms for different specific functions.
The breakdown they provide in the source is super practical. So TikTok and Instagram Reels, that is your short form funnel.
Right. Strictly for reach, discovery, getting people in the door.
But then you use Instagram carousels for something totally different. Not for reach, but for educational depth and driving those high save rate authority signals we talked about.
And then you introduce YouTube.
Yeah.
Which serve a completely different function again.
Right. Long form expertise.
Yeah, it's for long-form expertise and search discoverable authority. It operates essentially as an SEO play.
Because YouTube acts like a search engine. I mean, people will actively search for that exact framework 2 years from now.
Exactly.
Whereas a TikTok video, that basically disappears into the void of the feed after, like, 48 hours.
A well-positioned YouTube video generates compounding views over years. And then finally, you funnel all of that attention into a newsletter or a dedicated community platform.
Your owned audience.
Yes. This is where you have a direct relationship, totally devoid of algorithmic interference, which, critically, is where you can actually monetize.
Let's bring this back to the listener for a second. Think about your own media diet. Don't you inherently trust a creator more when you see, their snappy 30-second hook on TikTok, but then you click their link and find a deeply researched 20-minute YouTube video backing up that exact point?
It completely changes how you view them. It proves they aren't just a talking head, they actually have the receipts.
Right, and that multi-channel signal is significantly stronger than any single format operating in isolation. You're basically platform-proofing your credibility before you even need to rely on it.
Exactly. So we've laid the foundation, we've dug the defensive moat, now we're looking at the apex of this whole structure.
Pillars 6, 7, and 8, thought leadership and monetization. And this raises a highly debated question from the researchers' FAQ. Can an AI influencer genuinely become a thought leader?
That's a great question.
Because isn't thought leadership fundamentally a human trait?
The researchers argue a definitive yes. An AI can be a thought leader. In a rapidly evolving space like the 2026 AI creator market, thought leadership isn't really about biological humanity anymore.
What is it about then?
It's about taking defensible positions on debated questions. It's about offering original frameworks that actually help audiences navigate complexity. If an AI persona can consistently express depth of knowledge and participate in industry conversations with a clear perspective, they build thought leadership.
But it requires selectivity over volume, right?
Yes. High-value contributions to a few highly relevant conversations build far more authority than just, reacting to every single trending topic on social media.
Okay, so less performative presence, more thoughtful engagement. Let's talk money, though. Pillar 7, premium monetization. You've achieved thought leadership status. How does that authority actually change the economics?
It shifts the entire pricing model. The fundamental dynamic changes. You do not price your partnerships based on your follower count anymore.
Really?
Right. You price them on your authority signals.
Because brands aren't buying your reach. If they want reach, they can just buy programmatic ads.
Exactly. They are buying your audience's trust. And trust is a remarkably scarce asset right now.
So an account with, say, 20,000 deeply authoritative followers
command a much higher rate than an account with 100,000 followers, but shallow, meme-based positioning.
Yep.
Rates become based on engagement quality, save ratios, and the tangible strength of the community.
But there's a massive warning light flashing in this section of the research. Accepting misaligned brand partnerships just for, an injection of short-term cash.
Right.
That is the fastest way to erode all of this accumulated trust.
It is the ultimate unforced error.
Hmm.
An audience reads who a creator aligns with as a direct credibility signal.
Right.
If a persona promotes a product that contradicts their established values, or that inner logic we talked about, they violate that trust instantly.
And at the authority level, once trust is broken, it's incredibly difficult to rebuild. It's like going back to our Michelin star restaurant.
Yeah,
It's like them suddenly putting a sloppy, mass-produced fast food burger on the menu just to make a quick buck. You would instantly question the integrity of the entire establishment.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Which means you have to be resilient. Building this kind of authority is a long-term process, and creators will inevitably face disruptions or growth plateaus, which is Pillar 8.
And the natural instinct when growth plateaus is to panic and pivot,
Right, yeah.
change the identity.
Right. But the framework advises treating growth plateaus not as failures, but as diagnostic signals.
Diagnostics.
Yeah. When growth slows, you don't change your entire identity. You look at your systems, you find the bottleneck, and you invest there.
And when controversies happen or a platform algorithm completely turns against you, what saves the brand isn't some clever new hashtag hack.
No, it's the accumulated trust capital and those owned audience channels, like your newsletter.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the theory of building this trust, but I mean, if I'm starting an AI persona today, my impulse is going to be to rush to monetization immediately. I assume this framework forces you to basically slow down and map this out.
It absolutely forces a slower, much more deliberate pace. The researchers actually provide a comprehensive 365-day roadmap to visualize what this requires.
Let's zoom out and look at that timeline, because it really puts the required patience into perspective. So Q1. During those first few months, the priority is entirely about identity and positioning consolidation.
Right. You are documenting the brand system, you're establishing a sustainable publishing cadence, and you're launching just one recurring content series.
You're essentially training the audience's algorithm on what to expect from you, and you're actively auditing your own content to correct any of that identity drift before it takes root.
Then as you move into Q2 months 4 through 6, the focus shifts to audience growth and credibility signals.
This is where you activate those community rituals we talked about, the Q&As, the challenges.
Exactly. You start natively expanding to a secondary platform, and you launch that all-important newsletter to start capturing your audience.
And it's only around Q3 months 7 through 9 that monetization and partnership expansion really kick in.
Yeah, you've spent half a year building trust. Now you can activate revenue safely.
And to make that concrete, this doesn't just mean throwing up a generic sponsor link. This is when an AI creator might launch a highly specific digital product.
Like a premium guide on automating content workflows based entirely on the authority they generated in the first 2 phases.
Right. They secure aligned brand partnerships using authority-based pricing, and they start publishing true thought leadership pieces for long-term SEO discovery.
Which then paves the way for the final phase of the year, Q4, brand dominance.
Brand dominance.
This involves producing an annual flagship piece of content, like a definitive state-of-the-industry report for your niche. You start receiving inbound media requests.
Because your authority becomes self-reinforcing. Other people mention you simply to build their own credibility.
Exactly. It is a serious progression. And the researchers provide an authority maturity model to help locate exactly where you or the creators you follow currently sit on the spectrum.
Okay, I want you, the listener, to mentally place your favorite creator or yourself into one of these 3 stages right now.
The first stage is emerging. Engagement here is mostly driven by entertainment. People enjoy the content, but they aren't saving it as a knowledge resource. Any brand partnerships are merely transactional reach exchanges.
Right. Stage 2 is established. This is where the crucial shift happens. Your audience actively references your specific past content in the comments.
Pure creators start acknowledging your perspective.
And your save and share rates are consistently above the niche average.
The final stage is market leadership. At this point, the creator is actively shaping the conversation. The original frameworks they invented are being utilized by others.
Inbound requests for partnerships vastly exceed outbound pitches, and the community is so strong it literally recruits new members on its own. That is the mountaintop right there. But getting there is incredibly fragile. The research highlights 3 specific things that will destroy this progress faster than anything else.
Progress killers.
Exactly. 1, positioning inconsistency, basically promoting things that contradict your established values.
2, transparency failures, misrepresenting the actual depth of your expertise.
And 3, reactive identity drift, changing who you are just because a shiny new trend popped up on your feed.
Because all of those actions violate audience trust. And without trust, the entire ecosystem just collapses.
So what is the ultimate takeaway here? The internet in 2026 and well beyond is going to keep evolving at a breakneck pace. Platforms we rely on today might be totally obsolete tomorrow.
Oh, absolutely. The algorithms are always going to change.
But building a foundation of deep, legible authority creates a durable ecosystem. If you construct it correctly, your credibility compounds completely independently of any temporary trend wave. You aren't just handing out flyers on a busy street, you're building an institution that people will literally travel across the city to find.
That's spot on. And there's a profound, almost philosophical irony to leave you with.
Oh, lay it on us.
If you look at this incredibly rigorous framework, which is designed specifically for AI influencers in 2026, they have to rely on hyper-consistent values, strict niche positioning, avoiding identity drift, and nurturing deep community rituals just to prove their authenticity and build trust.
They have to work incredibly hard to seem reliable.
But aren't they just using the exact same playbook human creators should have been using all along?
Oh, wow.
Right. As artificial intelligence gets better and better at mimicking human output, perhaps the ultimate irony is this. Mastering this AI influencer framework is actually the absolute best way to make your own human personal brand completely irreplaceable.
Now that is definitely something to think about.
Thank you for listening to AI Creator World Podcast. If you found this episode valuable, make sure to follow the podcast, subscribe on YouTube, and share this episode with another creator who is building their future online. For deeper guides, AI tools, and step-by-step growth strategies, visit our website at aicreatorworld.net. And remember, in the age of artificial intelligence, creators who learn faster will lead the future. See you in the next episode. Bye!